Welcome to the Game Charter. This is my entry into CopperCavalry's monthly prompt, Self-Improvement, and it's based on my favorite video game review show, Ross's Game Dungeon. Suffice to say, I'm not just going to be ripping off the naming scheme. Toni Morrison once said that if there was a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Well, if there's a game you want to see on Ross's Game Dungeon, but it hasn't been reviewed yet, then, yeah, you get it. Seeing as this is my first review of a game, I decided to go with the first game I ever played, Metroid Fusion. It was the Christmas of 2002, and I was but 4 years old when I unwrapped my brand new Game Boy Advance. Initially, I started crying because I expected a toy and I was a spoiled little shithead who acted like Dudley Dursley from Harry Potter.
Aren't they wonderful, darling? How many are there?
36. Counted them myself.
36! But last year I had 37!
Yes, well, some of them are quite a bit bigger than last year.
I don't care how big they are!
Then my old man got it out of the box and plugged the cartridge in, and the rest is gamer history. But enough reminiscing, let's get right into it. So here's Samus's ship flying alongside a bigger ship, which we later learn belongs to Biologic Space Laboratories, an independent research firm commissioned by the Federation, which is the dominant political entity in the galaxy comprised of humans and other sentient races of interstellar-capable species. You don't really need to know about the lore in Metroid to appreciate the game, but it helps if you want to appreciate the story and the intrigue and, oh shit, Samus fucking died. Nah, what really happened is explained when you start a save file. Let me just save us all the 5 minutes this intro takes and give you the rundown. Samus is being paid by the Federation to protect BSL scientists who are surveying a planet. They come across some weird, ugly alien being, and Samus does what she does best, but something flies out of the alien's corpse and attacks her. Well, that thing happens to be a parasite, which seeped into her nervous system hours later when she was flying into an asteroid field. Samus is rushed to a hospital or something where they develop a vaccine out of the parasite's natural predator, the titular Metroids. It's worth noting that A, Metroids are extinct at this point in the timeline. The Federation just used a cell culture from the preserved corpse of the last infant Metroid, and B, SR-388, the planet Samus got owned on, is also the planet Metroids are from. Anyway, the vaccine works, Samus is fully recovered, but her suit got fucked up by the parasite in the meteor crash, so not only can she not take her suit off, she doesn't have any of her abilities except for her arm cannon. No time to mourn the loss of the screw attack though, because the Federation lost contact with BSL's orbital research station above SR-388, and there's only one bitch spicy enough to see what's up. So with a brand new ship and a pat on her ass, Samus is embarking on her newest mission. Finally, we get to play. Our first job now that we're on board the main deck is to check out the quarantine bay, cause there's been an explosion. Before we get into the danger zone though, we gotta talk with our computer. Oh yeah, that brand new ship the Federation gave you wasn't exactly free. It comes with an onboard AI that you're supposed to take orders from. You can talk with him in any computer room on the station. Biosigns are detected, huh? I'll put a stop to that. Oh hey, it looks like that thing Samus killed in the beginning. Sure enough, the parasite comes out of its corpse. Better avoid it. Back in the computer room, your AI tells you that samples brought back from the planet have been infected with a parasite and broke out of containment. That would explain why we haven't seen any other people on board so far. Oh, and that vaccine they gave you actually altered your DNA, so now you're immune to X parasites, and absorbing them gives you health and ammo. Convenient. Yeah, these things are actually called X. I guess the research station doesn't get Federation funding for being creative. The computer unlocks the white doors for you and then sends you to download the missile upgrade from the Federation, but the power cuts out and you gotta improvise a way back to the main deck. Whoops, looks like the first boss is in the way! After you kill it, you get another upgrade, Samus's classic Morph Ball. You re-establish communications with your AI, and he tells you that the X have infested Sector 1 of the research area. Say goodbye to the main deck for a while. We've got a whole sector of X to disinfect. This first section is a good demo for the first 75% of the game. You unlock doors, collect upgrades, and kill bosses, with slight variation in order. Metroid Fusion's engine is actually a heavily modified version of Wario Land 4. I never played Wario Land, but I might, because these controls are tight. I may have just gotten used to AAA games over-animating simple movements and actions, but it was a breath of fresh air to play a game where I could jump on frame 1 instead of having to watch the character do a little squat first and wind up. The gunplay's pretty good too. Your bread and butter for the first half of the game are your missiles. Use them for bosses and regular enemies. They do way more damage than your regular arm cannon, but they're slower and you have a limited ammo supply. You can find ammo canisters and increase the amount of missiles you carry, which is pretty much essential if you don't want to have to crawl through every level. The canisters are either stuck behind an obstacle that one of your suit upgrades can get past, or they're in a secret area, but you can count on finding enough of them on your own to get by. When I was a kid, finding missiles was the hardest part of the game for me, so when I hit 100 missiles on this playthrough, I was feeling pretty good about myself. Then I looked up a walkthrough for a part I was stuck at and saw that the guy had 200 missiles at the same point in the game as me. It doesn't really matter though, because I don't think I ran out of missiles once in this playthrough. What the fuck? Samus shoots straight ahead by default, but you can aim straight up or diagonally by pressing the left bumper. If you're in the air, you can aim straight down, and you can also aim diagonally downward, but you have to be running for that. You'd think that you could get by well enough without any of the fancy aiming mechanics, and you'd be right for the most part, but there are plenty of spots in the game where being precise is rewarded, especially during boss fights. Something that bothers me about Metroid is that they keep calling Samus a bounty hunter. She's a gun for hire, sure, but bounty hunter? Bounty hunters are private citizens who track down fugitives for reward. If you're a fan of Metroid, you know that 90% of the enemies Samus kills are like animals. Alien animals, granted, but certainly not sapient. I don't think there's been a single instance in the entire Metroid saga where Samus has even engaged with a human target, let alone a wanted criminal. I know that this is supposed to be a kid's game, so maybe having Samus kill or capture invalids isn't exactly the theme Nintendo's going for here. But even in the darker Metroid Prime series, Samus doesn't engage with space pirates as often as she's killing war wasps or fucking zoomers. You might think mercenary would be a better job description for Samus, since she is hired by the Federation to kill stuff, but I can't think of any mercenaries who have a kill count that's 90% fauna. Poacher would be a better title, I think. In real life, poachers do occasionally fight with humanoids, but their main targets are animals. Hell, most of the bosses in Metroid games are rare predators. It's a big deal if you get to a boss that's illiterate. I want to talk about the bosses. But I can't talk about the bosses without talking about the sectors. The map is divided into 6 sectors plus the main deck, plus some other areas. The meat and potatoes of Metroid Fusion is in those 6 sectors, trust me. The story is that you're on a biological research station that studies the ecosystems of the planet you're orbiting, so naturally, each sector is a different ecosystem. You've got your caves, a tropical climate, a cold climate, an area for the nocturnal fauna, a hellscape magma lake, and an aquatic area. That one's fun. Each sector also has its own music, and the music in this game is fantastic. There are a few tracks which are somewhat forgettable, but everything else from the sector themes to the classic fanfare really sets the mood, whether that's triumphant, urgent, or tense and frightened. One thing I like about the sectors is that you don't complete them in numerical order, and you have to go back to some of them. It's a little detail, but it really helps to keep things plausible and immersive, which is helpful because I had a hard time figuring out how the researchers on board navigated this station with all the suspended platforms and tight crawl spaces. Anyway, each sector has a boss, and some of them even have more than that. The boss battles are as diverse as the environments, but they all end the same way, with a core X. Since all of the bosses are just infected hosts to the X, after you blow their host body to bits, the only thing left is the parasite, which has absorbed a special ability from its host. Core X's come in two variations, a shooty type and a spiky hurt type, both of which are stupidly easy to kill. On one hand, it's satisfying to curb stomp an exposed parasite after having to deal with their much more powerful host body, but on the other hand, a child could kill these things without breaking a sweat. I would know. I was that child. The core axes are just a nitpick, though. The worst crime they commit is ruining the tension at the end of a hard boss fight, but those get stressful enough already. Some of them are so intense that I even hesitantly compare them to bosses from roguelike games. The X in the game are just as varied as the sectors. Like I said before, absorbing X gives you a little bit of health or ammo, but if you don't absorb them, they might mimic another creature, or fly into another X host to upgrade it. Pretty cool! The story is that they all act as a hive mind, with their primary objective being to reproduce as much as possible. Once they infect an organism, they can mimic its form and even change its DNA to suit their purposes, which, for most of the game, is just trying to kill you. Since they can infect most living things in the universe, there's a small conflict of interest. The game does other stuff to really make it feel like those gelatinous floaters aren't just health and ammo packs too. They have an agenda. When you unlock the level 1 doors, you find out from the AI that the X immediately flooded into all areas with level 1 access. Well, one of those areas is Sector 2, the Tropical Zone. When you first go into the Tropical Zone, the enemies are just little caterpillar things that move faster when they take damage. Annoying, but manageable. Well, after you beat the boss, those caterpillars are gone. They've turned into chrysalis... They've turned into cocoons. You don't go into Sector 2 for a while after that, but once you do, the cocoons have hatched, and they've got wings. This is a cool detail that really conceptualizes the X as an evolving enemy. But my favorite example of that is in Sector 6. See, one of the sectors on BSL is the Arctic environment, but since Samus is infused with Metroid DNA, she's now just as vulnerable to cold as Metroids are. Oh yeah, Metroids are vulnerable to cold. That's important to know. Well, you can get a suit upgrade that protects you from the environment in Sector 6, the Nocturnal area, but it's not going to be that simple. The X that have already broken into the Arctic zone have gotten super chilled, to the point where if you absorb them, they'll freeze you from within. Well, guess who's in between you and that new suit upgrade? X normally try to avoid getting absorbed, but these X kamikaze right into you, and they'll wait behind obstacles to ambush you. Yeah, 100 damage. But once you get the Various suit upgrade and become immune to temperature, they give you health again. Suck on that, Frosty! I love this. You've got your classic Metroid progression, where you obtain upgrades and unlock areas, but now your enemies getting upgrades and unlocking areas too. It's like an arms race between you and the game, where one of you will always have the upper hand, but never so much so that the other can't improve and outpace the leader. That's why this is my favorite Metroid game, and one of my all-time favorites in general. I can't think of any other game where the difficulty progression is tied into the plot. Honestly, this game is a good choice if you're new to the series, or if you just want more Super Metroid. It's innovative, but it hasn't changed, if that makes sense. Okay, white elephant in the room. Who is that gross alien Samus from the main deck elevator? The game keeps you shrouded in mystery about the nature of this doppelganger from the moment it arrives to a little bit after the end of your elevator ride. You learn from the computer that the X-parasite who infected you planetside mimicked you, and is now actively trying to sabotage the station to an unknown end. The computer calls it SAX. Since it infected you while you were at full power, it has all of your upgrades from the last game, so you're told by your AI to avoid it at all costs. He's not joking either. No matter how upgraded you get, the SAX can pretty much bend you over backwards and blow your suit right off. Whenever you're in a sector with the SAX, the game quickly turns into a survival horror. There's only a handful of encounters you have with it, and I guess that was to preserve tension. But damn, I could have had SAX on my ass the whole game and wouldn't complain. Throughout the game, you get hints that maybe that galactic space empire you keep working for isn't really on the side of righteousness. What with the bioweapons and experimentation on sentient beings and they have Ridley's corpse on board for some reason. The corrosion of trust between Samus and the Federation definitely goes both ways too. As you get further into the game, more of your upgrades start coming from boss fights, and less from the Federation, and you don't find out why at first. Your computer even starts getting cagey with you, giving you objectives with less and less explanation. Well, after you destroy a security robot that's been corrupted by the X, you break into the restricted area, and the truth comes out. The Federation's been breeding Metroids. This is treated like a big foul on the Fed's part, and Samus isn't happy about it at all, but I don't really see what the problem is here. The X-Parasites seem like a way bigger threat to the universe than Metroids, and Metroids are the only thing that kill X. The only reason Samus can kill them is because she's got Metroid DNA inside her from the vaccine. We need to be breeding these things in every corner of the galaxy. Mass-produce vaccines for every living organism so that we might hope to— Oh great, SAS found them. Well, it's not a total loss. The last known Metroids in the galaxy were all on that module, but so was SAS! Oh wait, no. Your computer tells you right after you kill it that there are at least 10 other SAXs on board the station. At least! Yeah, they reproduce asexually. Did I mention that the last known Metroids in the galaxy were on that module that just exploded? The gravity of the situation isn't lost on your AI. After a little back and forth, and a surprise reveal that the AI is actually the uploaded consciousness of your dead CO who may or may not have been romantically involved with you, he decides that it's probably best for the universe to ignore Federation orders and do everything in your power to stop the X from spreading. Fortunately, the reactor that powers the station has enough explosive power to not only blow up the station, but the planet below, which would destroy the X on board and the ones in the wild on SR-388. You just need to get up to the bridge and punch in a few commands. But who's this come to stop you? Yeah, SAS isn't much of a hard fight in the end, which doesn't do all the build-up they gave it justice. This guy could kill you for 99% of the game. One shot was enough to bring you down to half health. If he cornered you with one good shot, that was it. After he's beat, you can finally alter the trajectory of the station to collide with SR-388. You only have 3 minutes to get back to your ship though, but since you're already on the main deck, that's plenty of time to— Oh fuck, an Omega Metroid! Looks like they're not extinct yet, but that's what the Federation pays you for. Well, at least we saved the universe from the X, right? Hold on, is that— The game leaves SAX's motivation to save you up in the air. Who knows what compelled it to save you? Maybe in mimicking Samus did it find a shred of humanity and decided to help her in her hour of need. Maybe it pragmatically assessed that you were the only thing that could hope to kill its only predator, the Omega Metroid. Whatever the reason, I'm glad they didn't clarify it with dialogue. Samus is a woman of few words, so it's fitting that SAS is too. It's time to go, though. The station's about to drop out of orbit. The ending is like the beginning. A couple shots with some text of Samus ruminating on the mission. By destroying Biologic's research station, and an entire planet, she disobeyed the Federation, and there's gonna be consequences. None of this is confirmed, this is all just her speculation, but come on, nothing this expensive happens without somebody getting blamed, and Samus being a private contractor means she's the perfect scapegoat. If I were Samus, I'd take my brand new starship and get the hell out of Dodge, but her AI convinces her that somebody on the top will understand her actions. This seems incredibly naive to me. The AI that the Federation installed in your spaceship happens to be your old flame, and is now urging you to return to Federal space and assuring you that you won't be in trouble? When the AI tells you that there are 10 SAXs, he also tells you that the Federation deliberately withheld upgrades from you so that you wouldn't be able to go against the SAX, because they wanted to try and weaponize them. After all, Samus is an asset, but she doesn't follow orders consistently. Well, what if the Federation could emotionally manipulate Samus? Just beam the consciousness of her old CO/man crush into her ship's AI, and let him subtly manipulate her. What if Adam, as she refers to the AI, is secretly trying to get the Federation their ship back with their newest wanted fugitive to boot? Well, I can't say. Mainly because despite being released in 2002 and only the 4th game in the series, chronologically this game is the most recent in the Metroid storyline. So you never find out if Samus got court-martialed or hailed as a hero, or what Adam the AI's true intentions were. You know, I complained about the lack of mystery around SAX earlier, but there's plenty of mystery surrounding this game already, the biggest one being whether there will be a continuation of the plot threads that Metroid Fusion wove. But that's all for this episode. I'll definitely do some more reviews in this style for future prompts. I want this to be the first official CopperCavalry series. I've got some more good games lined up, and they're mostly science fiction, so that should be fun. Until then, though, I'll see you next mission. I, don't like speedrunning.